Welcome, everybody. Very nice to have all of you here. I'm Sally from AgilityHealth, and I cannot tell you how much work has gone behind what you're about to see, which is the launch of our top predictors of team performance report. I'm talking about months and years of effort to bring you some of these insights. And I am really excited and honored to have a wonderful panel group with me here today. So I'll let them all introduce themselves. Let's start with you, Evan Laybourne. Go ahead.
I'll see you off mute. Good morning, or good morning for me, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. Yes, my name is Evan Laybourne. For my sins, I am the CEO and the co-founder of the Business Agility Institute, a fiercely independent research and professional association here to, well, support the wonderful folk at AgilityHealth in sharing this research.
Thank you so much, Evan. And Evan has been phenomenal. He's been the key author of this report. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for the amazing partnership with the Business Agility Institute. Let's go to Lisa Smith from Deloitte.
Everyone, my name is Lisa Smith. I'm a partner with Deloitte Consulting UK, and I lead our enterprise agility practice. We have about 130 practitioners that are deployed to either financial services, private sectors, so consumer, transportation, automotive, energy, many of our other big clients like telecom and media, and then also public and governance.
Thank you for being here. Lisa is going to provide a lot of amazing insights. First of all, Deloitte's our main sponsor, but also our main thought leader contributor to this report. So thank you very much. And also from Deloitte, we have Guy Oliver. Hello, Guy, and welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good evening from London. So yeah, Guy Oliver, part of Lisa's team, have been helping to build the business here in the UK for the last couple of years. In particular, my focus has been very much in the private sector. And yeah, happy to be here talking to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. And we've got Kevin Mitchell. Kevin's like the mastermind behind the data. Go ahead, Kevin, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Kevin Mitchell. Welcome, everybody. Excited to be here as well from Omaha, Nebraska. Organizational psychologist with Nebraska Medicine and an adjunct faculty member with the University of Nebraska at Omaha. And I've been partnering with AgilityHealth now for what we realize is 6 or 7 years on and off. And we're excited to share our results and the analyses that we have worked really hard on over the last couple months.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. Let me share my screen and we will get this party started. Let me know. Can everybody see my screen, the slide deck? Oh, thank God. Yeah, Zoom has been doing really interesting things for me lately. So basically just shares a blank screen, but this is all working, which is wonderful. All right, we've already done the introductions. Again, thank you very much for the panelists that are here. What do we do at AgilityHealth? We help you accelerate and scale your business agility journey through those 3 capabilities that we offer. Again, we are not a consulting company. We are a measurement, continuous improvement, and enablement company. So we provide our learning platform, agilevideos.com, along with some of the workshops. We have our Measure and Grow AgilityHealth platform where we can help you assess and measure. And that's what we're going to be digging deeper into. And then we also develop talent through the enterprise business agility model through the 7 pillars of EBA. Our objective is not agile. Our objective is to enable business agility. And that's why we have this amazing panel with us today. Here's the quick big picture of our agenda today. We're going to talk about what is enterprise agility and why does it matter? I'll give you guys a quick background around why did we do this report? What was the goal and the purpose? Kevin's going to tell you a little bit about the research method that we used to analyze this data. And then we're going to, Evan Laybourne's going to start dig deeper into the summary, the executive summary of what is it that you should be focusing on for your teams to truly achieve high performance across the 4,600 teams that we evaluated. And then we're going to double click. So kind of there's the big picture, but we're going to double click on predictability, time to market, value delivery, quality, response to change, and then talk about some of the upcoming research that we'll be having. For all of you that are wondering, where's the report? How do I get access to it? Ta-da, drum roll, it's right here. Trisha or Jenny are going to post the link right now on this Zoom, and you are welcome to download this report and begin to dig deeper into it. But let's start from Lisa's perspective in Deloitte. Lisa, take us to the big picture of enterprise agility. Why does it matter now?
To be honest, if we really think about what's going on in the economy, things are moving fast. We've moved to a contactless culture. Our consumers, our customers, they have infinite choice and zero switching costs. And we have CIOs and CEOs that are really trying to build business strategy to be responsive to those experiences in the market. So now more than ever, it is really, really important to ensure that you have an operating model that's able to adapt to this new ways of working. I think part of this is also about understanding what value means in the eye of the beholder. So when we talk about customer value, are we representing customer value, or do we have an operating model that relentlessly engages our customers to be able to weigh in on their value? And then really what you see at the end of that sentence there is that we have to cut down our time to market. There's no more the days of having big, long transformation programs that take 2 to 3 years to deliver. Our clients are just losing. And so it's really important to understand the time currency of days and months as we start to deliver, and you build more of an MVP. So a culture of MVP. How do you drop MVPs into the market, get end user feedback and refine, but most importantly, you're being responsive to those experiences. Part of this is actually really going to be fundamentally driving a shift in mindset. So we think about talent, we think about cash, we think about ownership in the organization, and really this is more of a move to a domain-led ways of working. How do you actually integrate those capabilities through, and then have an emphasis on value flow and quality. So those are really the new hacks. Do you have an operating model that allows you to understand how to build value into your delivery? Do you have the capability? Do you have next gen future of talent? Do you have programs around your delivery personas and really building learning pathways so that those who are closest to the work have the right tools and skill sets, and most importantly, they understand the vision of value, and then being able to pull through the quality there.
Amazing.
Is that the next slide? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So this takes us to what we believe our definition of enterprise agility is. And we, as Sally mentioned, we absolutely believe in continuous improvement. And as we think about next gen delivery and running alongside clients and being able to be more of an infinite delivery partner, we believe enterprise agility accelerates speed and responsiveness. We also believe enterprise agility neutralizes disruption. So no longer do our organizations really have to think about things coming in and stopping them, because they're not putting big, long work programs together. They're really thinking about what iterative delivery looks like. And this builds a resilient organization. And when we talk about resiliency, you'll hear CIOs and CEOs talk about how to build a resilient organization. That means that you learn how to bend, but not break. And that's where enterprise agility comes in. So kind of move that definition away from those that are closest to the work. We have many clients that say when they hear Agile or when they hear agility, which are two different things, by the way, they're thinking at team level. And you want to think about team level, you want to think about team of team levels, and then you want to think about enterprise. And you want that whole ecosystem coming together to be able to deliver those. And that organization will be able to sense value. And when we use that word, when you talk about being responsive, you actually need tentacles to be able to sense and feel when there's new experiences you need to deliver through the market, and how fast might you deliver that through with your talent. You need to learn, you're not gonna know. So no longer are the days that you put a big project plan in front and it's deterministic and everyone thinks it's it's permanent and it's going to be absolutely what's going to stick. So it's moving more from this finite mindset to an infinite mindset, which is, I don't know, but we believe, and that's how we start to use OKRs. OKRs are outcome hypotheses. So it gives you a really, really good thought and really good structure to build your work. But most importantly, it allows you to get out the starting blocks so then you can start to get some of that end user feedback. And then most importantly, agility allows you the ability to pivot to account for new emerging priorities, back to my definition around neutralizing disruption. So if you had an operating model that was quite iterative, you had a few focus outcomes. If COVID came along, you actually would have just said, right, okay, next quarter, there's some new things we need to do. Now I can consider new emerging priorities, or I can go into my backlog and bring up that next big value fast to the market. And for us, everything has to be around actionable insights, which is the beauty of this report. It is so rich in data. It is so rich in insights. It is actionable. That means is it few enough? Is it codified enough so that you, when you're leveraging the report, you know exactly what to do? It actually becomes a bit more prescriptive than just kind of, here's some raw data. And certainly for us at Deloitte, it really, really matters that we're customer centric. Our colleagues in talent, our people and purpose, that is like so core to our beliefs. And really society and climate, a load that we're doing around net zero right now, but all of these working together. So not one is not more important than the other. We believe all of these things working together brings through enterprise agility.
You couldn't have said it any better, Lisa. Thank you. I love the big picture. I love how you positioned it. And I love sort of that, all the words that you're saying over here where it's outcome based, it's the talent development, it's the learning, it's the pivoting.
Yeah.
At the heart and soul of all of this, there's a wonderful quote that I love from my friend Evan. So I put it, with your permission, on a slide deck. And it's called Evan's Theory of Agile Constraints. Evan, can you share a little bit about this? So now Lisa gave us that big picture view, but take us into what is this theory of Agile Constraints and why does it matter for this report?
All right, so with apologies to Eli Goldratt, who wrote the book The Goal, who came up with the theory of constraints. And theory of constraints is very simple. It's that in any process, there's a constraining factor. If you're building a car, and I'll use my daughter's Lego car as an example, if it takes you 5 minutes to install the engine, but 4 minutes to put on the wheels, then you can only produce cars once every 5 minutes. If you transform the wheel team, it makes no difference because cars will only ever be produced once every 5. But the corollary to theory of constraints is that there's always a constraint. If you optimize the engine team, and let's now say you can install engine in 3 minutes, but it still takes you 4 minutes to install the wheels, you're not producing cars every 3 minutes. You're now constrained by the wheel team. So the key to theory of constraints is to focus and optimize and invest in those areas that are constraining. Now, to extrapolate that at an organizational level, theory of agile constraints is that there is a constraint to agility in your organization. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, software teams would take years to bring a product to market. So it makes absolute sense for Agile, with a capital A, to emerge in the software realm because that was the constraint to agility. Now, I started using Agile back in around 2003, using Scrum. We had a potentially shippable product increment every 4 weeks. And I know it could have been 2 weeks, but we were doing 4 weeks. We weren't that great. And where was it going? It wasn't going to our customer because we had to wait for the release window. And the release window was once every 3 months for a minor release or once every 6 months for a major release. So our constraint, even though we had Scrum, we had Agile, our constraint to agility shifted from the software team to the ops team. And so our agility was not measured now in weeks. It was now measured in months. Now, to be fair, that was better than the years it was measured in prior to that. So around 2008, about the same time I got out of the tech world and started doing what we now call business agility, DevOps emerges. And DevOps it creates agility in an operations environment. So now we've resolved that constraint in many organizations. So we can deploy in seconds, not in months. But again, the corollary is that there's always a constraint. So the question for us, and part of the question we're going to talk about in terms of the constraint to high performance and the constraint to agility in organizations, is where is the constraint today? Where is your constraint? Where do you focus? Where do you get the biggest return on investment for that transformation? And where are you hitting diminishing returns because there's no more value to be gained from focusing or investing in the journey in that space anymore?
I love that, Evan. And I like what you said about where's your current constraint? And once we identify those teams that are constrained, what's the problem? Is it quality? Is it predictability? Is it time to market? Or is it all of the above? Now let's use some insights to actually solve that problem. Let's use data-driven and science to actually solve it. So I really love that. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of the background around the question that we tried to answer. And the question really is, what are the top competencies, behaviors, practices that would drive the team to the highest performance? Simple. what are the things we should do? Agile has a gazillion practices. There's so many different things. And you guys are familiar with our TeamHealth radar. We have 33 different competencies that we measure. But which of these competencies were the ones that were the most correlated and the biggest predictors for the high performance for teams? And so that's why we hired Kevin to help us with this. And we really got to a point where we're like, we have enough data now. We have so much data that is not just qualitative, but it's now quantitative. And we know that there's a relationship. And this has always been our hypothesis. For those of you that are customers of AgilityHealth, you know we've talked for years about the 3 metrics that matter. Maturity is measured in terms of practices and behaviors. And a lot of the radars that you see, whether it's the TeamHealth or the DevOps or product maturity or even the role-based, they're all asking, hey, are you practicing and are you maturing on these behaviors? And those are qualitative. We also measure performance, and that's quantitative. So that's kind of like, how much are you getting done for me? How fast is it? Is it the right quality? So those are like output metrics. And then within AgilityHealth, for those of you that don't know, we have the OKR dashboard. So how can we also start measuring? And I love what Lisa said, which is outcomes and key results have to have a hypothesis statement. We believe that by doing X, Y, Z, we will achieve ABC outcome. Bringing those 3 metrics together has always been my vision behind AgilityHealth. I mean, plain and simple, being able to quantify and visualize, how are my teams doing from a maturity perspective? Are they performing and are they achieving outcomes? And oh, if I don't like what I'm seeing, what can I do about it? How can I take action? Has really been the purpose. Now, for this specific report, I want to be very clear. We looked at the maturity competencies and how they impact performance. This is not the report that's going to tell you how both of those is impacting business outcomes and OKRs. That will be a future report. Why is it not this report? Because we have several customers that are just getting started with using the outcomes dashboard, and we honestly need a lot more business outcome data. But in terms of how does the qualitative practices achieve higher throughput, performance, predictability, even value delivery and time to market, absolutely, we've got some of that in this report over here. So just wanted to set the stage. And I want to introduce our friend Kevin Mitchell. Kevin, if you can take us back into, I met Kevin back in 2014 when we engaged him from the University of Nebraska. Tell us a little bit about maybe the initial research that you did on our TeamHealth radar, but more importantly, the recent work that we hired you to do this year.
Yeah, so thank you, Sally. So as Sally mentioned, we first started working back in 2014, and those first questions and the first real set of work that we engaged around was, and what I thought was really cool was this tool to really dig in and measure this maturity and some of these performance outcomes. And the first couple questions were just establishing some of the baseline. Is this tool reliable? What are the questions telling us? Really dissecting the tool itself. And so then what happened after we felt, good and confident about the reliability of the tool and the continued use of the tool, we came back together in this past year and looked at some data from 2018 to 2021, really looking at what are those input competencies, those 33 competencies that Sally mentioned, and how is that affecting our performance? How is that affecting our quantitative performance metrics that we're going to be diving into and providing some insight around here in just a little bit. And so really the question and thought process was, we know that these input competencies affect the performance, that's our hypothesis, but it's really hard mentally to make sense of maybe 33 competencies. I don't know any human on the planet that can probably keep all of those things straight in their mind and really drive change or focus on such a wide berth of competencies. And so really the question was, where do we get the biggest bang for our buck from a statistical relationship? And that's really what the question then became, is can we identify some top drivers? What are those things, what are those competencies that if we were to focus on 5 of them, what are those things that we should be focusing on, because we know that those have some of the strongest statistical relationship or statistical influence on our performance metrics. And so what we did was we took the data of these teams, so about 4,600 teams in that time that we looked at, 46,000 individuals. So a lot of data that we're sitting on. And we subjected each one of the performance metrics and then performance kind of as a whole to some stepwise regressions to really allow us to piece apart and isolate some of the exact effects that we would expect from the input competencies, and which ones seem to be the most impactful. And that's what our experts here on the panel today are going to be providing insights around, and providing some business case around, and providing some of the context around as well. And that's what I'm really excited about. And just as kind of from a tool and data perspective, this is a really cool data set, a really cool tool, and it has a lot of external validity and generalizability due to kind of cutting across geographic regions, cutting across size of company, and actually the biggest thing is it's collected from actual teams in organizations that are running and developing and maturing. And I think that is one of the greatest things around the tool, is that you're not looking at a group of college students necessarily. Nothing wrong with college students, but you're not looking at a psychological kind of collection data here. This is real people and real organizations that are working, and these are the insights that we're gaining from them reporting back to us. And so with that, I'll hand it back over to Sally to dive in.
Sure. And I think I want to start with the demographics. As Kevin said, it was really nice broad. We had about 146 companies that are part of this. Again, it's very important. This was not survey data that's like a public, hey, everybody, there's a free assessment. You should all take this free assessment. That's not what we're talking about. This is truly organizations that are customers of AgilityHealth. These are real teams operating and actually doing their assessment over time. So we're able to, even in the future, you'll see some of that time analysis. But 146 companies, you can see the size of them. 13 of them are over 100,000 people. 15 companies are in that 50 to 100,000 range. 42 of them are in that 10,000 or above. So, and it was actually a really nice wide variety in terms of company size. In terms of industry, I would say we also got a really nice group of industries. Generally speaking, within AgilityHealth, a lot of our customers really are in the financial sector. So that's why you see that, 28, and we do have a lot of information technology customers as well. But you'll see over here 14 insurance, healthcare, retail, government, telecommunication, 11 from consulting, utilities, education, and manufacturing. In terms of the regions, North America was the highest, followed by Europe in terms of being included here. Oceania, South America, Asia, and South Africa for the companies that were included. So let's dig in. Let's go to this report and let's actually have some fun looking at the data. The first thing I wanted to tell you guys about, and then Evan's going to really share sort of some of his flashcards around this, is that when we talk about performance, what is it that we're actually asking? Like, what are we talking about? So there are 5 metrics that we're measuring, which is predictability. And I actually have a nice slide over here that says, how do we measure performance? Give me 1 second, that will look even better. Yep, right over here. So predictability, how do we measure it within AgilityHealth? What % of the work that you said you're going to get done did you actually get done? We call it the say-do ratio. Time to market. Time to market we measure through the question is around how long does it take for something, when you say something's going to get done, how long does it take for it to actually be in production, to be in the customer's hand? Value delivery is really measured by what % of the business outcomes that you said you're going to get done did you actually get done? And we also have another 2 questions under throughput here for value delivery. Basically, how much are you getting done for me? What is the throughput, and did the throughput improve over time? For quality, we're measuring things like MTTR, which is mean time to recover. If there was a problem and it's in production, it's facing the customer, how long does it take to recover from a severe problem? And how many of the releases, how many times did we actually say, okay, this package is done, it's delivered in production? Did it come back with a high severity problem? We also ask about test automation and defect ratio. In terms of responsiveness to change, this is kind of the responsiveness. It's a lot about cycle time. So we're asking questions about story cycle time and feature cycle time. If the folks don't know what cycle time means, it means from the moment that the team says, yes, I'm going to work on this and get it done, until the moment that they say we got it done. When we're counting from moving to in progress all the way to done, how long does it take? Like Lisa said, is this weeks? Is this months? Is it years for something to get done? So that's what we have under responsiveness to change. So when we say we were measuring performance and these are quantitative metrics, and we're now going to share with you what are the top drivers towards performance? This is what we are talking about. These are the things that we're trying to improve. These are the things that we're trying to mature. And so now, Kevin, we've got, Evan, we've got our summary. I'm going to just visualize them for people so they can see them quickly here, which is the actual 5. Short iterations, generalizing specialist, planning and estimating, creativity and innovation, self-organization. Evan's going to dig a lot deeper into those. But I do want you to know that organizations and teams that have invested in this and that were at the highest maturity state were 37% higher in their quantitative performance than teams that didn't. And Kevin, maybe you have a comment here, how you did that analysis. I think you looked at the top 20% of mature team versus the bottom 20%, if you could provide input here.
Yeah, we split it out into top 20 versus bottom 20. Yes.
And so those top 20% of the teams that had invested in maturing these areas were 37% higher performing from a quantitative perspective for those top metrics. So Evan, I'm going to let you share your top insights now in your executive summary.
All right, fantastic. So this was a very interesting set of data to explore, and Kevin did a really great job of highlighting what stood out when it comes to those key predictors of team performance. So the page that Sally showed, think of it as like the high level summary. So across all of the competencies across AgilityHealth, these were, and I'll show you, this is my version of the slides. These 5 short iterations, generalizing specialists, planning and estimation, creativity and innovation, self-organization, came out as the top 5 predictors across any kind of space. So in principle, right, this is where you should start. If you don't have a particular problem, you're just looking to improve performance overall, any one of these 5 is a pretty good place to kick off. Now, short iterations is, well, we're Agilists, or at least I think most of us on this call are Agilists, so I hope we know what the importance of short iterations are. And we know that the shorter, if we can actually deliver not quicker, but more value sooner, then we are most certainly going to be, it's more likely that we are going to be a high-performing team. Similarly, it's about skill. Right? Teams of, we know this from other research as well, but teams of individuals with individual skills, where you hand off from one team. I'm the dev team, I'm going to hand off to the test team, I'm going to hand off to the ops team. That's not a particularly high-performing organization. And multidisciplinary cross-functional teams, it sounds obvious. And again, we've believed this for years, but the beautiful thing is now we have the data to back it up. Planning and estimation, and this ties into that short iterations. Teams that are better at planning and plan more regularly perform better. Creativity and innovation is, to be honest, I am incredibly happy that this emerged as a top predictor, because the first 3 are all sort of operational. They're nuts and bolts, agile stuff. Right? Creativity and innovation as a key predictor for performance is a powerful, powerful thing. Right? And then self-organization. And we're not talking like full teal, completely self-organizing, no managers. We're talking about teams that have a level of autonomy and can manage their work without interference. And I'll go back to the 1980s, W. Edwards Deming. He wrote, there are 2 mistakes a manager can make: interfering when everything is normal and being absent when things are not. And that's, I suppose, micromanagement and absentee management. And it's like finding that balance of giving your teams the autonomy, but being there to support them as you need. So I want to go a little bit deeper into the 5 drivers. No, sorry, the 5 competencies. And we have predictability, time to market, value delivered, quality, and responding to change. So I want to focus just on predictability for a moment.
Can I make a comment
And
before you go there?
oh, please.
If you don't mind. I just want to echo something that you said, and I really want people to take it to heart. I was super surprised and pleasantly surprised when I saw self-organization, creativity and innovation, and maybe I would even say the T-shape, the generalizing specialist, as part of the top predictors. Because what's interesting about all of those is they're about empowerment. When you think about self-organization, the heart of that is, tell me what the problem is, allow my team to self-organize and figure out how to solve it. When you think about creativity and innovation, it's about empowerment, which is, hey, tell me what the problem is. Tell me what problem you're trying to solve. Allow me, enable me as a team to be creative to find solution. And when you think about T-shaped and generalizing specialist is, hey, don't put me in a box and tell me that I can only play this role. Allow me to learn other things around my role so I can add value. So I just want people to think about that, because we for years have said that empowerment and delegating decisions down and enabling autonomy for teams are things that create high performance, but you now have data to back that up. So I just wanted to pause at that, because those were, and they kept coming up multiple ways. I'm so happy to see short iterations and planning and estimating. And I think that's the heart and soul of why Agile is working. But I love that these other ones showed up. So now back to you, Evan, for predictability, double clicking on predictability. And do you want me to show the screen on that one, or what do you want me to do?
No, all good. So I think everyone's going to be able to download and read the report. So I don't want to tell you what you can read. What I want to share a little bit is like some of our observations. So predictability, we want to make delivery more predictable. You want to make delivery more predictable. How? What are those characteristics of teams with high predictability? What do they look like? So it comes down to short iterations, planning and estimation, which you will remember were also 2 of the top 5, but unique to predictability. Setting roles and expectations, stable roles, clear roles, unambiguous roles, unambiguous expectations, setting a sustainable pace, right? And we know sustainable pace is important, and I'll get to that in 1 second, and size and skills. Right? So small teams, 7 plus or minus 2, or 5 plus or minus, or was it 5 plus or minus 3? They changed it recently. And I still say 7 plus or minus 2 because I'm old school. 2 pizza teams, whatever you want to call it. Right? Small teams are more predictable and higher performance. But what I really want to highlight is this. Right? This research really drove home that there is a link between the principles and the values of the Agile Manifesto and team performance. And what some of those principles, working software is the primary measure of progress. We deliver software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams, so on and so forth. The values and the principles of the manifesto, which are, they're principles, they're things that we believe, we take on faith, are and can be shown to drive high, or predict, I should be more precise, high performance and high performing teams. So this is, for me, this was the biggest aha as I was going through the results from Kevin and I was writing up the report, is that there was such a strong link between performance and those values and principles in the Agile Manifesto. It's absolutely fantastic. I want to move on to the second one, which is time to market. Right? So let's be honest, we want to improve time to market. You want to improve time to market. That's kind of what Agile's been sold on for the last 20 years. I can say 20 years because it has been 20 years. Now, I'll let Lisa talk a little bit about time to market, but I want to call out a couple of key points. First, creativity, innovation, generalizing specialists, and self-organization. Again, they come from these top 5 as well. But in addition, you've got workspace and process improvement, which are unique or not exactly unique, but they come into improving time to market or decreasing time to market. Again, I want to show you the aha for me, and it helps if I have the right piece of paper. There we go. The big aha for me was the impact of COVID-19. All right. So workspace, improving the workspace, that environment fundamentally and significantly improved from pre-COVID lockdown to post-COVID. So there's been this this shift to virtual, right, has had a positive impact on performance. Now, there's a whole bunch of caveats to that. There are other factors at play. The question is this impact sustainable, or is it anomalous because like we are in anomalous times? There's a whole bunch of questions about that, but it is definitely interesting and worth noting that there was an improvement or a predictability improvement on workplace pre and post COVID. So Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit about time to market?
Yeah, thanks for that, Evan. As I'm thinking about, I was just sitting here thinking about the sense of urgency that our clients have as relates to competing in a market where I talked about they have infinite choice and the consumers have zero switching costs. So you literally can sit behind a laptop and you can go from brand to brand to brand, or you can think about your operations and how most of the operations are still so siloed that value cannot get linear into the market. It is very choppy, then it gets collated, and then it gets delivered very slow. And so I think this is just a really good time to think about what are the fundamental ways to integrate and organize your work. So we have three kind of building blocks. We believe enterprise agility is also organizing your talent around value, organizing your work around value, and organizing your technology around value. These are all three fundamental things you have to do to survive in a digital economy. Doesn't matter if you're in IT or not, we're in a digital economy now. And so speed is hyper as has it ever been before. What we haven't really been able to think about is where we place in big bets in the market. And so this is like a new thing to think about. Time to market. Yes, it is about accelerating, delivered through model, but you have to also think about then like, what are those few bets that you're going to make now? Because you might need to make new bets, even maybe 6 months from now, like in the third quarter or fourth quarter. And so thinking about how to package the work in a way where you can deliver iteratively, it doesn't become so methodology driven, it becomes more principles based. We know our big bets, and we're working with, one of our big consumer brands. They wanted to move from being a toy manufacturer to a digital consumer company. They knew they couldn't get there in 1 year, but they also knew their organization was completely fragmented and completely fragile because they were not integrated. So they organized their entire business. It was not an IT initiative. They organized their entire business around domains. Domains are IT business essential partner intersections. When you're able to actually bring the organization together, understand those big bets, get the right talent behind those outcomes, your acceleration to market increases because you're now prioritizing around value. So what moves the needle, not low-hanging fruit. And you find that in delivery teams a lot, right? Because people get wrapped up in user stories and cycle time, and it's just getting things and cycle through. And it's like, but what is the value delivered? And I think that's why it's a nice segue to value delivered, because the conversation is wrong. The conversation is, what's your velocity? And did you have any defects? And it's like, no, the conversation should be, what incremental value have you dropped in the market since you've started working? And that gets to understanding that big bet, what experience has the biggest priority in the organization, and then being able to package that work and get the right talent behind that work. So I just really wanted to kind of highlight that, because when you think about delivery engines, and this is a team assessment report, the team is so important behind this to be able to decompose that. We call it a transparent taxonomy. So a work breakdown structure, it's like an accounting code. We can take OKRs and start with a strategic objective at the enterprise level and break it down to a team being able to deliver user stories off of that. And that is actually what connects that mission alignment to the market. That is your speed. Now I have a delivery assurance thread. I can let you go be autonomous. I can understand where I'm going to inspect and adapt and understand where value is going to be delivered. And then we can pivot if we're not, we can abandon, we can pivot, we can add more structure and learning in. So I think thinking about time to market and then understanding value delivered and how you leverage OKRs to be able to create that delivery assurance thread is really, really important, pre-thinking before you get to the delivery bit.
Well said. Really well said. So Lisa just helped us with the time to market to value delivery. Evan, can you take us into quality? I'll just flash again quickly, just so at least people can see it. And then take us a little bit into what are, and this was the value delivery, but let's go down to what improves quality and operational effectiveness. Tell us a little bit about those 5 that are here.
So quality was a bit of an outlier in that there were 2 capabilities, 2 competencies, technical excellence and technical expertise, that didn't appear anywhere else. These only drive quality performance. And this is actually a really sort of powerful thing. Right? It reminds us, and it has to focus, that if we spend too much time focusing just on agility, right, Agile, and Scrum, and Kanban, and SAFe, and LESS, and DA, or even if we go broader into like business agility domains such as like finance, Agile HR, beyond budgeting, and so forth, none of that matters if you're not good at your job. For those who are familiar with the domains of business agility, one of our models, craft excellence, is one of our domains. And this literally comes to that you have to actually invest in the core competencies and the core skills of whatever it is that you're trying to do. I want to move on to the next one then, because I don't want to run. I think we might run out of time. So I just want to touch on 2 things. So responding to change is the next, or the final of those performance competencies. It's fairly similar to the others. Again, it links to the Agile Manifesto, your short iterations, your self-organization. It brings in creativity. You've got this new one here of impediment management, where we've got individual leaders there to resolve and remove impediments. And of course, the importance of generalizing specialists, those T-shaped skills. And so if you can jump down to page 21, because I do want to draw attention to this. So there is a competency that doesn't appear in any of these performance measures, and yet when you look at just the top 25%, this is actually I think it's actually the highest predictor, not of performance generally, but of being in the top 25%, and that is effective meetings. It doesn't. It's a sort of an interesting, I don't want to say anomaly, but it's an interesting observation. It doesn't drive performance overall, right? But it is the key characteristic of the top performing teams, and the ability to have and host effective meetings, whether that's the stand-up, the review, the retrospective, whether it's a planning session, a PI planning, or whether it's just a one-on-one with your boss. Right? It doesn't actually matter what the meeting is, but the importance of having clear agendas, clear outcomes, and actually having effective outcomes. Right? We've all seen those memes, this meeting could have been an email. Well, that's not an effective meeting. It's those organizations that know which meetings can be emails and then which actually do have to be meetings, and actually make that clear so that everyone in the room actually agrees. There's a whole raft of information about how to run effective meetings. And I don't have time to go into detail, but this is one of those findings that emerged. It was a bit of a surprising finding because it didn't appear in the initial data. which we were sort of really excited when that was uncovered. I think that's about it. Sally?
Yeah, those are all of the key points. What I want to do is just welcome all of you to download the report and start digging in. You'll see that the report really provides lots of meat at the beginning of every one of these areas. When we say responding to change, you'll see the actual questions, because we don't want you to be biased, because all of us might think about, well, response to change means this to me, or response to change means that to me. What we're doing is we're sharing with you exactly the questions that we're asking, so that you can understand, like, what did we ask that basically shows the correlation to those drivers. From a final thoughts perspective, the point that we're trying to make is, at least on those 5 predictors and the ones that you see over here, the teams that invested in them were 37% higher in quantitative performance, not qualitative. We're talking about bottom line results. Those teams were 37% higher, which is why we believe that this is very statistically valid and something you should absolutely invest in. When you don't know where to start, definitely start with those. So I'll take you now to some of our next steps, and then we'll take questions and answer. Some cool news I wanted to share with you for those of you that are customers of AgilityHealth. If you click on any of the measurements, the metrics, the performance metrics within the platform, if you click on it, you guys know this little pop-up comes up, and it has the growth portal and it has the questions. Now you're going to be able to see those top drivers right from within the platform. This is a very big deal, in that now when you're doing this team health assessment, you're sitting with the team, you're analyzing the results, and the team says, gosh, we don't do a great job at quality. What should we invest in? Or we don't do a really great job at value delivery. Where should we focus? There's just so many things. You can now click and actually share with them those 5. You don't have to have the report handy. I mean, you're welcome to, but these top predictors and top drivers are now available within the platform. What are we doing next? A lot of people ask me, so what's coming next? What's the next report? Number 1, we really want all of you customers, partners that have this report in your hand right now to make it actionable. So we're going to work on reaching out to many of our customers, letting them know this exists, letting them know why these insights, matter, and making sure that if you really have, like what Evan said, my bottleneck is this group of teams, there's a problem here. Okay, what's the problem? It's quality, it's predictability, it's time to market, it's value delivery. What are we going to do about it and make it actionable? We're also going to make sure that in our certification classes that this data is now included, so that facilitators are aware and can bring it to the teams. And then our next report is going to dig deeper into what are the drivers for confidence, the team's confidence and the product owner's confidence in that the team is going to meet the current goals. What's the top driver and predictor for happiness? If you guys remember, we talk about, measuring happiness as a leading indicator for overall agility. We talk about overall agility, flow, value, quality, but happiness is a leading indicator. You don't want to do all of this and have unhappy people. So what is it that drives team happiness? And we've also found some very interesting data around team stability and what does it mean to have stable teams versus unstable teams. So that is coming up next in terms of next research. If you want to contact any of the folks that are here, here's phone numbers. Trisha is from our company, so feel free to reach out if you're not a customer right now and want a demo. Amazing Lisa is right here with us, and we've got Evan Laybourne as well. So let's take some questions. Feel free to post any of them. Trisha, are there any questions that have come through?
Nobody has given us any questions, which, we usually have a pretty chatty group, so I'm sure they're all just waiting to see who's going to post one first.
Even if you don't want to post questions, what was an aha for you? I'm curious just to get your insights in terms of, was there any aha or something interesting that you did not think would be in those top 5? And I'll stop sharing so I can actually see the chat.
We've also been watching our community on LinkedIn as well. We've had a lot of folks asking if there's going to be a recording sent out of this presentation as well. So yes, that will come here in the next day or 2. So we will be sending that out to everybody that registered for the webinar.
And I do want to mention to you guys, this is what we're calling our soft launch. Our formal bigger launch is going to be at the first week of December. We're partnering with Deloitte to just make sure that this report goes more at the global level. So stay tuned for that in December. Definitely recommend, if you've got your executives, your leaders, folks that care about team performance and high performing teams, definitely invite them to that. So we'll be sending you some more information about that. I'd love to hear some final thoughts from all of you as you sort of take a step back, Evan, Lisa, while we wait if there's any questions. Kevin, I want to start with you. Now that you've sort of seen all of this data and your research, you know, in this model into the public, what comes as top of mind for you?
Well, first of all, thank you to this panel. I am very much in the numbers a lot, and so it's been wonderful to hear and see the translation. This is such a rich amount of data and such a rich tool that I'm excited for the future of where this tool. This is just a starting point on this journey of really helping frame and direct attention. There's a lot of potential and possibility to really dig into the nuance, to drive some more thought, and to really inform and make really informed decisions using data and science in your organization. And that's always, from an organizational perspective, organizational psychology perspective, that's always what we attempt and try to do, is use logic, theory, and empirical evidence.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. And one of the questions that came is actually potentially for you or for Evan Laybourne. I want to be able to answer that. When we look at those top 5 drivers, underneath them, there's like 20x or 15x. Can either you or Evan help them understand what does that mean when one of these drivers has a 20x versus a 15x versus a 10x?
So I'll let Kevin actually explain that. But those, one of the challenges that we had in writing this report was simplifying what are, in some cases, fairly sophisticated statistical concepts into a way that sort of people understand. So the X is something that we've done, but Kevin, do you want to explain the weighting, the regression scores?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Lisa, I saw that you unmuted. Did you want to jump in before I went kind of down a stack?
No.
So everything's been based off of stepwise regression, which is just a modeling technique to basically help us understand the data better. In this case, it's a stepwise regression. And what this tells us essentially is it takes a look at what the performance metric is. So let's just take quality or what have you, any of the 5. And basically what this told us was this specific one, so generalizing specialist, is the most predictive, and it spits out essentially, and at the end of the report, if you're really inclined to, you can take a deep dive into that, is that tells us basically how much movement or how predictive or how much it explains in the outcome measure. So how much is generalizing specialist, if we were to move or focus on generalizing specialist, on average, how much would we anticipate to see some sort of change or impact on our performance? And so that's really just the goal of the weights and the goal of those numbers at the bottom, is that actually tells you which ones are kind of in rank order, if you will, of what are most impactful. So if you needed to just focus on one, probably choose the one that's probably statistically, on average at least, going to give you the biggest bang for your buck.
And so the way to read that is for every point increase in, say, technical excellence, quality, and say it was like a 52x, quality increases by 0.52 for every 1 point increase in technical excellence. So it's how far it moves compared to others, and of course it's obviously there's a ratio. So something that's 20x versus something that's 40x, it'll move 0.4 versus 0.2. Right, so there's a ratio aspect to that as well.
And the details are at the table at the end of the actual weights, the 0.0, the point numbers are at the bottom of the report. But Evan really turned them into something that's easy for me as a business person to understand, which is like, hey, where do you want me to invest? These are not all equal. Which one should I focus on? Lisa, let's get your final thoughts as you look at this report, look at the research, the study, and look at where Deloitte's trying to take enterprise agility next.
First of all, thank you for the pleasure of sitting with all of you today, and for all of you that showed up to think, get better, and really start to think about what enterprise agility might mean for you. For us, team delivery is always going to be about, has the strategy been decomposed down to the team? So when you talk about value translation to the market, the team, so the health of the team needs to be intact. It's like, your heart not working. It's not, the blood's gonna not get pumping everywhere. So we tend to think so disparately that CEO has a big strategy and a CEO has a big strategy and a CFO is gonna make sure there's funding for it. But at the end of the day, we're a people business. And we are only as good as a partner being able to translate that person closest to the work is an owner of the outcome, and there's a shared accountability for it. And so when I think about this report, it is just like vital statistics is how I think about it. I think about, is that delivery thing pumping? Is it operating well? Is it functioning the way that it needs to do so that that value gets to the market? At the end of the day, everything is about the end user. And we tend to get quite fascinated about our systems and our organization and how amazing we are. At the end of the day, it's about who we are serving. And our teams get to delight. That happiness ratio is a connection to purpose. Do we have ethical advisory? That's what we're thinking about. Are we not just doing tech delivery, but are we thinking about biases that can be built into tech? Or are we pumping more plastic into the systems? Teams should be top of mind to purpose and value, not work and activities. And so I hope everyone really kind of takes this up a level. Even though it is a team report, the team is the heartbeat of getting any of the experiences to the market that we're looking for. And that is actually where we're investing. So thank you for the opportunity to weigh in on this.
Thank you, Lisa. Last but not
With
least,
that,
Evan.
well, and Sally, we did have one question come in, which I think ties into Lisa's thoughts. And how much of these results are applicable to non-product delivery teams, such as business teams like risk, compliance, and finance?
It's super, it's business agility. It is the ability to galvanize around the body of work. It is agnostic to technology. You do, by the way, you're influenced by technology because you live in a digital economy. That is our modern economy right now. It is digitally driven. So everything that is still going through finance, we call them essential partners or speed boosters. You got to call people by good names so that they can help you out with this. Legal, we're working with a big consumer product company, and regulatory and legal is a huge impediment. Evan talked about managing impediments. Sometimes your essential partners represent an impediment because they haven't been integrated into that. So when you start to think about your ecosystem, when we said the whole of the enterprise, it doesn't matter if it's product, you need finance, you need HR, you need legal, you need supply chain, you need everyone, security and controls, you need everyone on the back end really trying to understand that. And it does not matter that they're delivering a technology thing. It is really, do they still understand value? Can they still organize their work into a portfolio? Can they still use talent to deliver behind that so that their organization can flex and move as it's necessary? So it's definitely all integrated together.
Let's give it back to Evan for your final comment.
Yeah, so I just want to also touch on that. There are, oh, sorry, stop.
I have a reminder for Evan.
Sorry. There are, I can't comment about this data because this data, there was obviously a lot of the AgilityHealth clients come from that technology space, and where the business partners are business partners. We know from other research that we've done that these kind of trends hold true even in organizations who have business agility and no technology. Law firms, for example, there is a large movement there. Oil and gas industry, where agility is being used in the mines, in the extraction plants, not in technology, though I think it's also being used in technology, but that's not what we're talking to. So this isn't just about these functions as a partner to technology, but this is also true for these functions in their own right.
Thank you, all of you, so much. This was a big effort. Again, years of work. Kevin, thank you especially to you. I know you've done so much to help us with these numbers. Evan, thank you for writing this report. Lisa, Deloitte, thank you so much for sponsoring and for your thought leadership. Everyone, I hope you enjoy it. Again, I'll see you guys in December. Again, make sure you bring this time your executive team and your leaders for the bigger launch of this report. Give us your feedback. Feedback is a gift, so please send us any feedback, anything that we can improve once you do dig into the report. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.